Hey guys, welcome back to Carib 21 Network. So I want to continue the conversation of what is going on in the Caribbean Sea and what is going on in Trinidad and Tobago. And I really have to continue this conversation, even though I'm tired of talking about it. But I believe that we have to keep it on the forefront, because what is really going on in Trinidad and Tobago, what is really going on in the Caribbean Sea, this is just mind-blowing to me, because I've been following this thing from day one. And what is so frightening to me is that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is the only, let me repeat, the only world leader on record supporting what is going on in the Caribbean Sea, what is going on between America and Venezuela, and this so-called war on drugs. Even when you look at America, even the Republicans, even Donald Trump supporters, die-hard MAGA supporters, most MAGA supporters are not supporting this. A lot of the Republicans, they do not want another war. They want the other two wars to end, and they are not looking for the President of America to get engaged in another war. Most of MAGA supporters, they are America first. Deport people, get rid of illegal immigrants out of our country, do not get us into another war. So it is just so mind-boggling to me that, as I said, the Prime Minister is the only world leader out there supporting what is going on. And this would have a negative impact on Trinidad and Tobago more than any other place in the Caribbean. Let that sink in. Guyana is the one that have the conflict with the Essequibo region, with them and Venezuela going back and forth. And we haven't been talking about anything to do with the Essequibo region so far since this Prime Minister came into office. Everything that we're talking about now is between Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, and the United States of America. And even I saw a recent video coming out of Venezuela with the Venezuelan Vice President calling Marco Rubio the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And based on what we have seen so far, Trinidad and Tobago have put themselves in a position where they are public enemy number one now to Venezuela. And this is just, as I said, it's just mind-blowing that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, she can't come out and say, you know what, I was wrong on this one. Let me just keep my mouth quiet now and take back my support for what is going on in the Caribbean Sea. And what people have been trying to register this into a lot of the supporters, the UNC supporters that are determined to back their Prime Minister, even if it means that the Trinidad and Tobago, the people of Trinidad and Tobago are going to pay for this. And I'm trying to educate people that, look, what is going on in the Caribbean Sea is illegal. What is going on in the Caribbean Sea is very much illegal. And I guarantee you that if the Republicans lose the election, the next general election, a lot of people are going to go to prison for this. So let me just show you what is really going on in the American media space. So Senator Ron Paul is one of the most outspoken person on what is going on in the Caribbean Sea. And in a recent interview, Senator Ron Paul, this is what he had to say about what is going on between America, Venezuela, and Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean Sea.
We have dangerous people in a lot of American cities, but we just don't go in and shoot them. I mean, we have trials, they get legal representation, and even on the high seas, it's been that way for generations. If you go off the coast of Miami, the Coast Guard will be stopping boats today, and about 25% of the boats that they stop, that they're suspicious of drugs, there won't be any drugs on board. So 25% of the time the suspicion is wrong. And that's why we don't shoot and just blow up boats off of Miami, but neither should we be blowing them up off the coast of Venezuela. Number one, there is no fentanyl made in Venezuela. Not just a little bit, there's none being made in Venezuela. These are outboard boats that, in order for them to get to Miami, would have to stop and refuel 20 times. They're in all likely going to Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island right off of the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about this. But number one is the broader principle of, when can you kill people indiscriminately? When you're at war. That's why when we declare war, it's supposed to be done by Congress. It's supposed to be thoughtful. It's supposed to be debated. And we're not supposed to do it willy-nilly. And then when you have war, you just kill people in the war zone. And even then, there are rules of engagement. But interdicting drugs has always been a criminal activity and a criminal anti-crime sort of activity where we don't just summarily execute people. We actually present evidence and
Okay, so that was Senator Ron Paul. And as I said, a lot of Americans are not supporting this. Democrats and Republicans, they are not supporting this. As a matter of fact, the most support that I'm seeing for what is going on now in the Caribbean Sea is coming from the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and a lot of her supporters. That is the widest support of what I'm seeing going on in the Caribbean Sea. Because as Senator Ron Paul pointed out, this thing could not happen in the waters of Miami if, first of all, American military would not be in any of the ocean ways that's in America, and they would not be able to bomb any boats in America's international water, because they would face a massive lawsuit. So this is unethical, it's inhumane, it's illegal, and as Senator Ron Paul pointed out, this is something that the Coast Guard, they have been doing for decades, and I kept saying that over and over again. The Coast Guard, whether in the Caribbean, whether in the Atlantic Ocean, the Coast Guards, they are out there, and when they intercept these boats, they have to arrest these people, they have to take them in for questioning, and they have to take in the drugs for evidence, and nothing like that is happening. And not even the Geneva Convention Act that monitors war, that makes sure that you're not committing war crimes. This is going way past that. And it is just so crazy that, as I said, this could not happen in American waters, but the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is happy with this happening in the waters of the Caribbean. And this is just so ridiculous. And one of the reasons why you know that this is illegal, apart from the Congress did not pass this for military to be in the Caribbean Sea, we saw where the commander responsible for this mission stepped down. People are saying that this man resigned, went into early retirement, but a lot of talking out there that, look, this man was not happy with what is going on with those 7 or 8 boats so far, and this man just decided to take an early retirement.
New this morning, the military commander overseeing the Pentagon's escalating attacks on boats off Venezuela's coast, that he is retiring. This is barely a year into his time in that role. And one source tells CNN that tensions had been simmering for weeks between Admiral Alvin Halsey and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and that Hegseth did not believe the admiral was moving aggressively enough to take on and target alleged drug traffickers in the Caribbean.
So the next thing now, for the UNC supporters that are still out there that's saying that, look, this is a war on drugs, and there's like human trafficking, there's drugs, and this is contributing to the increase of crime and violence in Trinidad and Tobago. I think you can stop using that talking point now, because even the President of America, and I would say 90% of the media in America, only Fox News, I think, is the only one that is still pushing this narrative that this is a war on drugs. 90% of American media now, they are reporting that based on all of the military assets in the Caribbean Sea, based on what Donald Trump is saying about sending in the CIA, something that no president has ever done since the CIA has been in existence. Based on all of that, we can just stop saying that, no, this is a war on drugs. This is about regime change. This is about changing out the leadership in Venezuela. And as I continue to say, like, look, I am not here supporting President Maduro. I don't know if Maduro is a legitimate government or not. Like, I'm not in Venezuela. I don't know what is going on. But the facts are that you cannot take out President Maduro without hurting the people of Venezuela. The people of Venezuela that's been a friend, a neighbor to us in the Caribbean for over 200 years, I keep saying. And you can't just go in there and take out the President Maduro, without hurting the people of Venezuela. And for people that are still supporting this, how many Venezuelan life are you willing to sacrifice for this man to lose office? How many lives? Is Venezuela, is this going to be like another Israel-Palestinian conflict? Because as I stated, Venezuela is equipped and they are ready to fight, and a war with Venezuela Trinidad and Tobago is going to be hurt more than any other island in the region. And this is why this is so frustrating, because I cannot believe that people are still supporting this based on all of those facts. So this is some more report coming out of the United States of America that say like, look, this is not about a war on drugs anymore. This is about regime change.
Also this week, President Trump confirmed that he is now authorizing the CIA to operate covertly inside of Venezuela, linked to all of this. But he did stop short of saying that the intent is regime change. Venezuela's president disagrees.
Hamas. Never before had any previous government, since the CIA has existed, publicly said that it was sending the CIA to kill, to overthrow, and to destroy countries.
Joining me right now is CNN senior military analyst, retired Admiral James Stavridis, former Supreme Allied Commander. It's great to see you, Admiral. In addition to being former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, you also spent years with U.S. Southern Command, years working on issues related to this region and Venezuela included specifically. On that Admiral retiring, what do you make of it?
Very strange. Hard to come up with an analog. Closest I can come up with maybe 20 years ago, another admiral, Admiral Fox Fallon, stepped down from a role at U.S. Central Command because of disagreements with the administration about how to approach Iran. But extremely rare to see a combatant commander, particularly in the middle of military operations, walk away from the job. Kate, I'd say three things could be at play here. Number one, he may have personal medical issues, family issues. He doesn't want to share them, but now is the right time for him to step away. Number two, we've seen Secretary Hegseth push out a lot of senior military leaders, including the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the former chief of naval operations. Perhaps he's been pushed out of the role, but in a less public way. And third and finally, the speculation I'm hearing is that he disagreed with the policy choices. And in that scenario, as a senior military officer, you essentially have the choice of executing the mission you're given or putting your stars on the table. Perhaps he did the latter. I don't know.
So as I said, 90% of American media is reporting now that this is about regime change, and this has nothing to do with the war on drugs. This has nothing to do with protecting any country in the Caribbean from human trafficking, drug trafficking, and illegal firearms. This is all about regime change. And most of the media is reporting, and the thing that is so disheartening to me is that we live in an age of information where you have your cell phone, you can just go on and you can search anything that is in America. You can get news coming directly from America, and from the Time magazine to the Washington Post to all of these magazines, they are reporting that, look, this is not a war on drugs, because the numbers just don't add up. It's reported that in 2024, 80,400 people overdosed in America on illegal substance. And of the 80,000 people that overdosed, 64% was from fentanyl. Guess how much fentanyl comes from Venezuela? 0%. There are more fentanyl coming from China, from Canada, from Mexico, and even produced in America itself. So based on that information, if there's any country you're going to war with, you'd have to wage war in America first. You'd have to wage war with Canada, with China, with Mexico, but Venezuela would not be on that list. And then for the other 36% of Americans that overdose from other illegal drugs, such as like cocaine and methamphetamine and other medication, like even legal medication that you can get from the pharmacy. And that is the other 36%. And in terms of cocaine production, Venezuela does not produce cocaine. And Venezuela is just a transshipment route, like you would find Jamaica is a transshipment route. Trinidad itself is a transshipment route. They are only used as transshipment route because of based on the Caribbean Sea and based on the closeness to Colombia. So for people to still think that it's okay for the Trump administration to wage war in the Caribbean Sea, even though this is not getting support from America, even though the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is the only world leader that is supporting this publicly. We have not seen any other world leader come out publicly supporting this. This is just mind-boggling to me. And this is just something that I have to continue talking about, because I don't think the people that support this really understand what they're supporting. And people keep coming in the comment section and saying, oh, you can say anything because 600 people in Trinidad and Tobago lost their life. And I keep saying, like, look, every single country in the world have some form of crime. And this has nothing to do with the zone of peace. This has nothing to do with keeping military, foreign military, out of the Caribbean. So to use that okay, you're losing people because of domestic crime, because of what is going on in Trinidad and Tobago, this is just disturbing to me that people are still pushing this. And if you really want Trinidad and Tobago to become a war zone, to me that is very sad, because that is exactly what would happen if America decide to go ahead and to continue with what they're doing with in terms of the regime change, and this would be a full-out war. And we know the location already. Trinidad and Tobago is about 7 miles from one point from Venezuela to Trinidad and Tobago. And if anything happens in Venezuela, already I spoke about this before, that the president of Venezuela and the vice president of Venezuela made it clear that if America attack Venezuela, Venezuela would respond, and they would respond not only to America, but Trinidad and Tobago would become a target. And I don't understand how people are supporting this. Like I've spoken to people from war zones that really understand what war is all about. When you talk to people, when you talk to Palestinians, when you talk to people from Ukraine, like I've had conversation with people from Ukraine who left Ukraine because of the war, and they would be on the phone talking to someone that, look, my house just got blown apart. Like my husband or my dad or brother is dragged into war, even though they don't want to fight. This is what a war zone is like. And I pray that the people of Trinidad and Tobago don't experience this, but I just can't understand how people in Trinidad and Tobago are still supporting this. So guys, sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this one. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace. I'm out.